Targeting can be life or death for B2B marketers, as we're interested in targeting a specific ICP or list of accounts, which is what makes LinkedIn ads so attractive and expensive. According to LinkedIn, there are more than 200 characteristics that you can use to nail down your target audience. I'm Silvio Perez, and in today's video, I'm gonna show you how to get started with LinkedIn ads from creating your first account to launching your first campaign. Let's get into it. And by the way, if you like content around B2B advertising, be sure to subscribe and click on that bell icon to be notified of future videos.
First thing we're gonna do is create our LinkedIn ads account. So go ahead and go to linkedin.com, sign into your profile, and then we're gonna kick things off from here. And for those of you that wanna skip around this video, if you're revisiting this video for a second time and you only wanna see a certain section, go ahead and check out the description box down below where I outline all the different video sections for you. Once you're in your LinkedIn profile, you're gonna go ahead and click on Advertise here on the top right. And then once you do that, it's gonna open up the LinkedIn Ads Campaign Manager. And this is where all the magic happens with LinkedIn ads. This is where you're gonna build campaigns, optimize campaigns, scale campaigns, do all of your ad operations around LinkedIn here. Now, go ahead and click on Create on the top left, Account, and then this is where we're gonna be able to actually create our LinkedIn ads account. So I highly recommend the account name being the company name. So whether that's the company name of your employer or for your own business or for a client's business, whatever the case might be, set the account name as the company name. So in my case, I'm gonna do AdConversion as my account name. I'm gonna leave my currency to USD as that's the currency that I operate in, but you can set this to whatever the currency is that's relevant for your business. And then it's gonna say here to associate a LinkedIn page with your account as optional, that some campaigns require a LinkedIn page to use. I highly recommend that every single LinkedIn ads account that you create is associated to a LinkedIn page. You're gonna be very inhibited in terms of the campaigns you can and cannot launch if you don't have a page. So really recommend that this is more of a mandatory thing versus an optional thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop in my LinkedIn page URL here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click Save. And now we've created our first LinkedIn ads account. To go ahead and finalize the account setup process, go ahead and click on your account name on the top right, then click on the billing center. And this is where we're gonna be able to enter in our payment information. Really important that we take care of this now. So as we launch campaigns, we don't have our campaigns get paused due to failure to process payment. So go ahead and add in a credit card by clicking Add Credit Card here. And go ahead and enter in your payment information. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video here and finish this so that way we have our payment finalized. Once you finalize your payment, you will see that you're gonna be listed here as the primary billing contact for the account. If you ever need to make revisions in the future, such as updating your credit card, you can do so by clicking Manage Credit Card here and making those different adjustments. So now that our billing information is finalized, we're ready to go. We can start to use our LinkedIn ads account in its full capacity and be able to launch campaigns, and then our card information on file will get charged for the ads that we run. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through the LinkedIn ads account and go through some common scenarios of things that you're gonna probably find yourself having to be done. So for example, if you click on the account name on the top right, if you ever need to change your account name, you can do that by clicking Edit Account Details. You can change it to whatever you'd like. If you ever need to add somebody to your LinkedIn ads account, you can click on Manage Access here and then click Edit, and then you can add a new user to your account. Important to note that they do need to have a LinkedIn profile in order to add them. You would just go ahead and search up their name and then add them to your account with whatever level of permissions that you'd like them to have. Another example of something that you can find yourself needing to be done in LinkedIn is if you ever need to leave an account. Let's say you're no longer part of a company and you don't want to be a part of that LinkedIn ads account anymore, you can actually click Leave Account here and it'll remove you from this account. Another way as well is if you need to remove somebody from your LinkedIn ads account that is no longer supposed to have permission to it, is they will show up as a user of the LinkedIn ads account here, and you can click on Edit and actually remove their access to your account. Now that we created our LinkedIn ads account, let's talk about campaign groups. Now it's important to note that every single LinkedIn ads account follows the same exact structure. You first have campaign groups, and then within those campaign groups, you have campaigns, and then within those campaigns, you have ads. So every account is gonna follow the same structure of group, campaign, ad. Now, it's important to note when you created your LinkedIn ads account, LinkedIn created this new campaign group for you automatically by default. If you actually click on these three dots here and click Manage, you can actually adjust this campaign group name to something a little bit more specific and helpful for you. You can adjust the status of every group to active, paused, or archived. You can set a start and end date for the group if you, let's say there's a specific timeline in mind, and you can also set a start and end date with a budget. This is a little bit more useful for a group that's dedicated towards something like a live event or a virtual conference. Now, important to note, how you create your campaign groups is 1000% up to you and what makes the most sense. What's going to allow you to organize your LinkedIn ads account in a way that is scalable, right? You really want to keep things simple. I always say you cannot scale complicated. So how you go about creating your groups, really the things you want to keep in mind here is there's a couple of different use cases. So some people will create a group by stage of funnel. So one group can be top of funnel, another could be middle funnel, another one could be bottom of funnel. And then within each group, they'll have different campaigns that, target people within those stages of the funnel. Another common example of using groups is based on content type or offer. So you can have one group for gated content, another group for demo requests, and then another group for free trial. And then you have all the campaigns that associate that offer and try to drive that offer within that group. Another example of how you can create your groups is based on account list or region. So you could have like North America and then, whatever the name of the accounts are. So a lot of different use cases, 100% up to you. Just think about, as you think through your groups here, what are the goals that you have within your B2B organization, whether it's, driving a certain amount of pipeline based on account, whether it's, trying to drive volume based on segments. So maybe you want to create a group. One is emerging, one is mid-market, one is enterprise, and you have different campaigns that roll up underneath each objective. But you really want to break out your groups in a way that's going to allow you to very easily report on how the campaigns and ads in those groups are lining up to that overall goal. So in my case, to keep it really, really simple, I'm going to do it based on offer. So I'm actually going to rename my campaign group here, and I'm going to call it content. And I'm going to use this for purely driving content. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I've adjusted that campaign name. If you want to create a new group, you can just click create campaign group, and it'll open up that same wizard where you can create additional campaign groups. Now that we wrapped up our campaign groups and you set it up in a way that makes sense for your organization, let's go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be tracking. Now, it's important to note we're front loading a lot of the account asset creation right now. And the last step we're going to get into is building our campaigns. And the reason we're doing it in this way is so when we go to build our campaigns, we have everything set up, all the foundations in place, so we can just build as many campaigns as we want and not kind of have to, work backwards. So with that being said, we are going to get into installing LinkedIn's insight tag and setting up conversion tracking. Now, every ad channel has their own variation of a pixel. LinkedIn calls theirs the insight tag. So if you actually click on insight tag, this is where we're going to be able to grab that code to be able to install it on our website. Now, it's super important to understand that LinkedIn's insight tag is different from a lot of the other ad channels out there in regards to the amount of information it gives you of the users that are coming to your website. So once we install the insight tag on our website, we are going to have this tab open up to us called website demographics. And the data that lives in this website demographics report makes LinkedIn ads so amazing for B2B advertisers. We are going to be able to understand what are the company names of the individuals that are going to our website from LinkedIn. What are the job functions, the seniorities, the job titles, the industries? So much rich information that is going to become available to you once we install that insight tag. In addition to that, you're also going to be able to build your remarketing audience. So at LinkedIn's insight tag will live on your website. People who click from your ad to your website will get cookied, and then you'll be able to remarket those users. So the insight tag is extremely valuable. So let's go ahead and set that up so we can get those demographics, we can build our remarketing pool, and we can also set up conversion tracking. So we're going to go to account assets here, insight tag, and then we're going to click see my insight tag. Now we have to actually install it for the first time. If you already have it installed, it would show up there as an option. And there's some different ways you can do this. You can install it yourself by hard coding it into your website. Don't recommend this option. You can send it to a developer. So if you just want to send it to a developer, you can send it to them via email, the tag, and they can install it. Or you can use the third option, which is using Google Tag Manager or any other different type of tag manager, whether it's Telium, Adobe. I highly recommend Google Tag Manager. It's super easy to use, and if you want to be an effective B2B advertiser, Google Tag Manager is a tool that learning it will open up so many possibilities for you. So if you're not familiar with Google Tag Manager, highly recommend that you check out a course, look up some YouTube videos. It's super easy to use. Of course, there's a learning curve at first, but it's really amazing in terms of being able to install tracking pixels, set up events, so much amazing stuff with Google Tag Manager. So with that being said, I'm actually going to use Google Tag Manager, and I'm going to show you me installing the Insight tag. Again, it won't be a full-on Google Tag Manager tutorial, but you'll get the gist. So I'm going to go ahead and copy my partner ID here, and I'm going to go and open up Google Tag Manager. I've already installed Google Tag Manager on my website, and I've already created different tags. I'm going to create a new tag here. I'm going to call this LinkedIn Insight tag. I'm going to set up my tag configuration here. So Google Tag Manager will have preset tag types for different platforms. So if you actually go here and search LinkedIn, you can see they have one with LinkedIn as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click LinkedIn Insight, and I'm just going to drop in my tag ID that we copied here. And then if you click on advanced settings, you can do some advanced stuff. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that for the sake of this video. Just putting the Insight tag ID is all you need. I'm going to go ahead and trigger, and I want this to fire on all pages. So that's it. Simple as that. We have our tag, all pages. So we want this to tag every single person that comes to our website, regardless of the page they visit. And I'm going to save that. Then we are going to submit this. You should always preview before you submitting. It's a best practice with Google Tag Manager, but for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm going to just publish it. And I'm going to put here added LinkedIn pixel, and I'm going to publish this change. Now that I installed the LinkedIn pixel on my website, there's actually a really great Chrome extension that I recommend you check out if you want to verify that your pixel is firing properly, the Insight tag. So if you go ahead and search LinkedIn Pixel Helper on the Google Chrome extension store, this Chrome extension is really helpful just to verify that your Insight tag is firing properly. So you can see here my partner ID of 3656292 is firing. It's green. That means it's good. So we have installed the Insight tag properly. So now as we drive users to our website, LinkedIn is going to pick up that activity. If we go back here to the LinkedIn Ads Manager, I'm going to go ahead and click agree and continue. We're going to be able to see under web demographics, the LinkedIn Insight activity. Now that we installed our Insight tag, the last remaining step for us to complete is to create and set up our conversion tracking. To do so, we're going to click on account assets, conversions, and here's where we're going to be able to track all the different conversion events. So what you determine is a conversion is 1000% up to you and your goals and your company. If you want to measure people that signed up for your free trial, or people that completed a demo form, or people that opted in for some content, you can set up those different conversion actions here in the conversions page. So I'm going to go and click on create a conversion. We're going to give this conversion a name, of course. Name it based on the action you want people to complete. So in my case, I'm going to track people that sign up for my newsletter. So I'm going to call it newsletter sign up. You can put demo, free trial, whatever makes sense for your action. Then from here, we're going to choose the type and what this reflects. You can see LinkedIn has all these different options here. I'm going to select sign up as it's the most congruent with my action here. If you know what this conversion is worth to you in terms of value, like for example, this is best for like purchases. So if you know every single conversion represents X amount in revenue, you can put that value here. If not, you can leave it blank. Here is where we get to set our attribution window. So by default, LinkedIn opts to a 30-day click-through window and a 7-day view-through window. So what does that mean? Essentially, this means that with a 30-day click-through window, anybody that has interacted with your ad, so anybody that clicked through your ad and then converted at a later point within this 30-day window would be considered a conversion. So for example, let's say I clicked on an ad and then 29 days later within this 30-day window, I convert and take this action, I would be considered a conversion based on this click-through window. Same thing with view through, only difference is instead of clicking, I was served an impression, and that's what they consider a view. So within let's say on day 1, I saw the ad, I was served an impression, and then on day 6, I actually converted and took this action, I would be considered a view through conversion. Now, how you determine your attribution window is 100% based on what does the average conversion cycle look like for your organization. So if it's on, and a really helpful report here, if you've already been running these conversion events, is the time lag report in Google Analytics. But just to keep it really simple, I like to do 30 days. So I know anybody within this cohort of month to date, whether it's a click through or view through, I will be willing to consider them a conversion. Now, if you want to be very strict and only have conversions be registered in your ads account based on like last touch within a very short period, you can set a 1-day click through conversion attribution window. So like if it's marked a conversion in your ads account, it's somebody that literally took that action within a day. And then the same thing for view through. So this is the most strict and the most specific. Where I am a little bit more lenient with the attribution models here is when I'm doing things such as like ungated content. I love using longer view through conversions or longer click through conversions because I'm playing a longer game. If you're just trying to drive like direct response lead gen, then setting your attribution window a little bit shorter will probably make the most sense. But again, 100% up to you. So in my case, rule of thumb, I usually default it to 30 days. I know within this month-to-date cohort, this is how I'm measuring a conversion. Now, the next thing is setting your attribution model. LinkedIn is very archaic in terms of the attribution models they support. They're not very flexible. Everything is last touch. So unlike Google, where you have time decay, first touch, position based, all these other models, LinkedIn only has last touch. So by default, it's last touch each campaign. You can also have last touch last campaign. So meaning it will only consider a conversion if it was the last touch from the last campaign versus last touch for each campaign. I like each campaign that's a little bit more flexible, so I just leave it as the default there. If we have any campaigns that we've created, you can select those campaigns and associate this conversion action to them. We don't have anything, so it's blank, so we're going to skip that. And then the next part is actually defining how we want to track conversions. So whether it's based on the insight tag that we just installed, or if it's based on an event-specific pixel. Now, if you have a dedicated thank you page of where the people that completed the conversion action that you're tracking are being sent to, such as like, demo-thank you for a demo redirect or a free trial page that they're going to after signing up. This is where, setting your conversion definition based on a page load makes a lot of sense. So essentially you would just put in here the thank you page URL that people are being redirected to after taking your conversion action, and then anybody that went to your landing page, filled out your form, and then got directed to that thank you page would be considered a conversion based on the attribution windows that we just set up. The next thing is an event-specific pixel. So event-specific pixels are a little bit more complicated because you're going to need something like Google Tag Manager to set this up. But where you may want to use an event-specific pixel versus a insight tag related conversion is based on a specific like trigger. So if you're not sending people to a dedicated thank you page, and let's say based on that form completion, people are getting redirected to your homepage, which is a very non-unique page, very heavy populated traffic page on your site. This is where an event-specific pixel will be a lot more helpful because you can set it in Google Tag Manager based on form trigger and not actually page load. So a lot more flexibility in terms of event-specific, but also a little bit more technical in terms of the setup. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to use the insight tag based on page load because if you sign up for my newsletter, you're getting directed to a dedicated thank you page. And that thank you page has thank-u in it. So I'm just going to put thank-u, and I'm going to change this to contains. So anybody that gets directed to the thank-u page, which is unique again to this newsletter sign up, they will be considered a conversion. So I'm going to go ahead and click create here. And now we have our newsletter sign up conversion goal set up, and we don't have any campaigns associated with this. But once we build our campaign, we're going to be able to associate those new campaigns with this conversion action. Now that we finalized our tracking, let's go ahead and move on to creating audiences in LinkedIn ads. So to do so, you're going to click on account assets and then drop down to matched audiences. Now, one of the great reasons B2B marketers love LinkedIn advertising is their targeting capabilities. And one of the most advantageous ones for B2B marketers is the ability to target based on companies, so account lists. If you click on create audience here, you can see we have the ability to upload a list based on company or contacts, which is amazing because if you try to do this on other ad channels such as Google or Facebook, they only accept contacts and not companies. So by uploading a list based on companies, we can upload a list based on company name and domain to be able to layer that into our campaigns for account-based marketing. Versus if you're doing Facebook or Google, you have to source those primary contacts or associated contacts, and it's a much bigger lift in terms of being able to target your account lists through those channels. So I'm going to go ahead and click on upload a list by company or contact. Give this audience a name, so whatever the name of it is, if it's a contact list or an account list, and then you would just download the company list template or the contact list template and then just upload it, and it would take 48 hours to match. So once you upload that audience, it'll take 48 hours to match for LinkedIn to be able to find the amount of people on the LinkedIn platform that correspond and match to that source audience that you uploaded. Another great audience that we can create is retargeting audiences, whether it's based on events, so people interacting with your LinkedIn events, lead gen form, so people that completed your lead gen form, company page visitors, so anybody that visited your company page profile, video, so if anybody watched 25% of your video ad, 50%, 75%, 97%, this is amazing for, especially if you're doing ungated content and you're driving, let's say video views for a podcast or a YouTube video, and you want to retarget people based on consumption of those videos. You can do some really cool retargeting audiences here with that. If you want to retarget people based on website activity, so this is like a remarketing audience that essentially I recommend everyone kind of has. So essentially anybody that's visited your website in the last 180 days. And to create this, it would just be as simple as putting in your domain name. So anybody that's matched a URL that contains my root domain of adconversion.io will fall under this audience. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. So we have this audience here, and you can always click on the audience and update the criteria. So if you wanted to get a little bit more specific, you can do that with these conditions here. So we just created a all visitors audience. We can create another audience of company page visitors. So it'll pull in your company page. And we can do the same thing. And I'm going to call this company visits. And I'm going to do the past 180 days. So people who visited your organization page or people who actually clicked on your CTA button. So I'm going to click on create here. So we just created those two remarketing audiences. Some other audiences that I highly recommend that you always create is not just thinking about the targeting, but also the exclusion, more so the exclusion at times. So for example, if we are going to be promoting demo requests, we should create an audience of individuals that took us up on that offer. So if they're getting sent to a specific thank you page, we should create a website remarketing audience based on that specific thank you page and consider an exclusion. So for example, we would exclude, it could be lead gen form completions or, actual landing page completion. So anybody that, in the last 90 days completed a demo, let's go ahead and exclude those people. And you can name it however you want. This is just a naming convention I like to follow. And we can do the past 180 days, 90 days, 60, 30, however you want to set that conversion window. So we would just simply put the landing page URL. So in our case, we are tracking the newsletter signups. So I'm going to do newsletter signups because I want to exclude those individuals. And I'm just going to drop in the same URL that people are getting sent to. So in my case, it was thank-u. So anybody that has that in the URL, I want to exclude them. And this is going to be what we would call a burn audience. Next, another great audience for you to create is any existing close won customers. So if you can pull a contact list audience from Salesforce or whatever your CRM is and upload that as an audience, as an exclusion, you can exclude any existing customers. That's a really good example of an audience that you should consider creating. And you can also create dynamic audiences. So there's different, marketing technologies out there Like for example, HubSpot has an integration with LinkedIn, and you can create dynamic account-based audiences. So you can do this, you know, on a dynamic version, so you don't have to constantly recreate these audiences. But for the sake of simplicity and everything available within LinkedIn, this is how you would create these different audiences. So go ahead and create your audiences, whether it's based on company or contacts, whether it's just based on, you know, remarketing of company or website visits, but really think through the audiences that you want to target and exclude. Again, existing customers, close lost opportunities, you know, people that completed that conversion action, right? So if somebody signed up for a demo, let's stop showing them ads around a demo. So really think through those audiences, and this is where you're going to be able to use LinkedIn's audience capability to create those different audiences based on all these different data sources that they support.
Hope you're finding this video valuable. If you like more content around LinkedIn ads, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment down below.
Now that we've gone through all the different aspects within our LinkedIn ads account, let's go ahead and launch our first campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and select on my campaign group here, and I'm going to click create and then campaign. And this is going to open up the campaign wizard. Now, first thing you're going to notice is we have to name our campaign here on the top left and then select our campaign group. Highly recommend that you always follow a campaign naming convention for all of your campaigns. And there's really three things that really make a great campaign naming convention. Number one is that it's versatile. So if you do have to make some changes, it's not going to break your entire campaign name, especially if you're using UTM campaigns. The second is that it is repeatable. You want to make sure you're using this again and again. And then lastly is that it's descriptive. It's really important that your campaign name is descriptive enough for you to understand what this campaign is, who are you targeting, and what are you promoting. And then also, if you download all your campaigns into an Excel report, it's going to make your life even easier to be able to filter by your different campaign names. So in my case, I'm going to use a very simple campaign naming convention that I recommend that you use, and that you can, you know, use this to get started and then eventually just take what works for you and leave what doesn't. So the first piece of our campaign naming convention is going to be the location or region. So in my case, it's going to be the United States of America. The next one is going to be the actual offer itself. What are we promoting here? So I'm going to be using an example of promoting this video that you're watching, and I want my ICP to watch this video, promote like a small clip, so that way they can watch the whole thing on YouTube. So I'm going to call it LinkedIn Ads Tutorial. For you, that could be demo requests, that could be free trial, that could be a webinar name, that could be a live event, whatever it is. And then the next thing is going to be your actual targeting criteria. So if that's job titles and skills, if that's job function and seniority, if that's job titles and member groups, if that's a specific account list, if that's specific industry, whatever that makeup is, that combination. LinkedIn has so many different options, which we're going to get into in a second. Just outline what the targeting makeup is for this campaign. So specifically for this campaign, I'm going to be creating an audience based on job titles and member skills. So I'm going to call this titles and skills. If I wanted to get even more granular, I could break out each campaign, and assuming the audience size is large enough, where I could have one campaign targeting, you know, this specific job title, and then another campaign targeting another specific job title, and then I can see which job title converts better. This is really powerful, especially if you're trying to validate a specific persona. But in my case, I'm going to keep it simple, versatile, and descriptive, where I know it's titles and skills. And then last but not least is the creative type. Is it a video? Is it a carousel? Is it an image? In my case, it's going to be video. You can put whatever that is for you. Is it video, carousel, image, conversation? So you can go ahead and outline that there. So this is a very simple campaign naming convention. It is versatile, it's descriptive, and it is repeatable. I can follow this again and again. So now that we have that set, I'm going to go ahead and click next, and I'm going to choose my campaign objective. Now, LinkedIn breaks out their objectives based on the stage of the funnel, very similar to Facebook, actually. So you can see they have awareness, which is brand awareness, consideration, and conversions. Now, each objective on its own, there are strategies and playbooks in mind of what you can run. I just want to talk through very high level for B2B marketers, what I have seen just, you know, managing over 7 figures in ad spend for clients, what is the most common and what you should be thinking about leveraging first. So if you are trying to drive conversions, if you want people to, you know, fill out a demo form, sign up for a free trial, sign up for a webinar, anything where they have to give you their information, you're going to be living in the conversion section column. So you're going to be using lead generation and web conversions. Now, lead generation campaigns, they use native lead forms. So when somebody clicks on your ad, the lead form will pop up within the LinkedIn newsfeed, and it'll come pre-populated with a lot of the prospect's information based on their LinkedIn profile. And then the web conversions objective is when they click on your ad, it's going to drive them to your form page. So for example, if your landing page is your demo page with your form on it, it'll drive people to your demo page and try to drive people that are going to actually convert on your demo page. So the biggest difference here is this one, all conversions happen natively within the platform. The prospect never leaves. And this one, the prospect clicks on your ad and gets sent to your landing page where they have to convert. Highly recommend testing both objectives. You could do one campaign with one objective, one campaign with the other, and see which one works best for you. But in my experience, lead generation usually is the best option for most B2B organizations because their landing pages, their native landing page conversion rates are just not as good as compared to those lead forms. Now, the biggest downside with lead generation and using lead forms could be quality, but really making sure that you're building a solid audience, which we're going to get into the next section, and really making sure that you're using exclusions. That's going to really help you with lead quality. And then also on your form itself, you can do things like adding qualifying questions, custom consent checkboxes, and that could be a whole video in itself. So if you want more content around lead gen forms and getting higher quality leads, let me know in the comments down below. But these are the two objectives that I really recommend you use. So if you're trying to drive demo, trials, any conversion objectives, leverage these. Now, important to note, because you're using conversion objectives, your costs will be higher. You'll have higher CPMs, higher CPCs as you're having LinkedIn optimized towards an objective that is very expensive. So that's just something to note. Now, if you're trying to drive content, whether that's videos or to an article of some sort, if you're ever going to do video content, I highly recommend you use the video views objective, as this is going to optimize towards getting people to actually watch your video. And then you can create a remarketing audience of people that watched, 50, 75% of that actual video, so you can retarget them. So in my case, I'm going to use video views. But if you were trying to drive people to an actual blog, for an example, then you can use web visits to get LinkedIn to optimize to driving people for the lowest cost possible to your website. And then another really good one is engagement. Now, engagement is going to have LinkedIn optimized towards people to interact with your ads. And I've actually found that engagement has been outperforming website visits in terms of lower cost per clicks and higher CTRs in terms of getting people to your actual to actual landing pages. So really the takeaway here is keep in mind your goals and then use an objective that is going to reinforce those goals. And then don't get pigeonholed into just one objective. This is where a lot of companies fall short on LinkedIn ads. They just use one objective. Test multiple objectives, as you'd be surprised as sometimes different objectives used with certain creative and certain offers can convert really well. So for example, you can use video views and actually drive, conversions and getting people to sign up. Now, that's not what it's going to optimize towards, but there are use cases where things like that work. So don't feel restricted. Test and see what works best for you. For brand awareness, a really good use case for this is if you have a live event and you have a very short deadline and you want to get in front of an audience and you want to saturate that audience as much as humanly possible within a short time frame, brand awareness could be really good. If you have like a 2-week window and you want to make sure everyone within a specific account list sees your ads, this is where something like brand awareness can come into play. So I'm going to go ahead and select video views. And now we're going to actually create our audience. So key thing to keep in mind here is this forecast here on the right. It's going to show you different spend thresholds and impression counts based on 1, 7, or 30 days. To be honest, I don't really pay any mind to this. Really, the only thing I care about here is the actual audience size. So what is a good audience size really comes down to your goal. Are you promoting, are you trying to offer a gift card to get people to sign up for a demo? Well, then you're going to want a really specific and tight audience. Are you trying to just get in front of as much of your TAM as possible? Then you can have a large audience. But as a general rule of thumb, I always recommend 50 to 250,000 as an audience size. So anything more than 250 is usually an opportunity to get a little bit more specific, combine more different characteristics together, so that way your audience is a lot more targeted and precise. So let's go ahead and run through these options. So number one is, where is your target audience? So in my case, it's going to be the United States, but really important, a trap that a lot of people fall into is they'll have recent or permanent when they're only trying to reach people that actually live in that location. So I'm going to go ahead and select permanent. So I'm only reaching people that actually live in the United States of America. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Next is to narrow our target audience. And by the way, if you did have recent or permanent, and let's say you want to be a little bit more flexible there, but you want to make sure you're excluding certain locations, that's where this exclude people in other locations can come into play. Another really cool option too that people don't really test is languages on LinkedIn. So you can target people based on what their different profile languages are set to. And this is something that probably only 0.02% of LinkedIn advertisers, especially in the B2B space, are testing. But for most people, they're going to default to English here. But just understand that you can target based on different profile languages and see, hey, if we try targeting people based on Danish and we have Danish ads and Danish landing pages, can we get cost breaks? Make sure to always deselect audience expansion 99% of the time, unless it's intentional. It's that 1% of the time and you just want to test to see if audience expansion does work better for you, then go ahead and leave it enabled. But for most companies, usually having audience expansion deselected will result in better performance. And essentially audience expansion, what it is it's going to take your audience criteria that you just built, and then LinkedIn is going to go to try to find people that look similar to that. And it sounds great in theory, but in practice, it usually doesn't perform as good. So as a general best practice and rule of thumb, highly recommend you deselect this, especially us as B2B marketers. We're only interested in a very specific universe. Now let's go ahead and narrow in our target audience. This is really where the magic happens, narrowing our audience and excluding our audience. Exclusions are probably, I don't want to say as important, probably almost more important than who you narrow your audience as. So really important to make sure that we're always excluding. So let's go ahead and start off with narrowing here. And these are LinkedIn's different options. So we can target based on the audiences that we built. So going back to the MetaMatch audience section, if you uploaded a list of companies or you uploaded a list of contacts, you can target those specific companies. If you're trying to do any account-based marketing, any lookalike audiences, you can target retargeting audiences. So in our case, we created that site visitors audience. So if I wanted to target people that were within this, remarketing audience, I can do so here. You can see I don't have a large enough audience size, so I can't deploy any campaigns against this. But assuming I did, I could target this remarketing list. And if you have any third-party company or contact list, so this is usually if you're using like a third-party ABM tool, they'll directly import their audience into your LinkedIn Ads Manager. And some of them also have like dynamic integrations, which is really cool. So you can do a dynamic integration of third-party companies. So it's just dynamically pulling from Salesforce and things like that. So a lot of cool tools out there to help you in terms of getting in front of your ICP. Now you can go ahead and select whatever you want. If you are trying to do an ABM campaign here, make sure you select your company list. In my case, I'm going to leave that blank, and I'm just going to use LinkedIn's native targeting criteria, which is this second option here of audience attributes. Highly recommend that you just go through each one of these sections and familiarize yourself with it and just write down different ideas that come to mind of combinations so that way you can target your ICP. Now, again, remember audience size. You don't want your audience size to be too small as it's going to hurt deliverability, but you also don't want it to be too big where you're going to get the wrong people. So 50 to 250 is a good rule of thumb. I know people that like to be even more specific than that and keep it under 100. Really, it's up to you and your level of tolerance, but just understand the larger the audience, generally speaking, the more broad it's going to be, the less specific. The tighter the audience, the smaller it is, the more specific. So you can see here we have company, demographics, education, job experience, interests, and traits. So company here, really cool. If you want to target specific company names or industries, you can do that. So if you wanted to run like an expansion campaign, for an example, let's say you're going to go after people that work at Coca-Cola, you can target Coca-Cola as a company and only target people that work at Coca-Cola. And then you can also go to job experience and layer in seniorities of, let's say, director, VP, CXO. So a lot of cool plays that you can do on LinkedIn, and I can do full videos on different strategies and stuff. But essentially, just go through these different options and build an audience that is specific. Take a look at your audience size, make sure that it's at least under 250,000 and build out that audience. So in my case, I'm going to do an audience of job titles and member skills. This is probably one of the most specific audiences you can build on LinkedIn ads, as you're saying, I want to target these specific job titles, but they must also have these skills listed on their profile, which is extremely specific. And depending on the job titles you're going after, it could be a little bit too specific and you'll have a very little audience size. But for my case, I know that my job titles are a little bit broader, so I can make it work. So for example, I'm going to target people that have head of marketing as a title. I want to target chief marketing officers, and I want to target demand gen marketers. So specialist, manager, head, associate, all this is good for me. And I want to target people that have growth marketing titles. So growth marketing manager, marketing director. So all this is great. Now, in my case, my ICP is I'm not just trying to go after any person in marketing. I want to go after somebody that works in marketing that has these titles, but also works in the B2B world. So I'm going to narrow this audience further, and I'm going to narrow it by combining member skills. So I'm going to go back here to interest and traits, or I'm actually sorry, job experience, member skills. And then this is where I'm going to like filter this audience to be based on specific B2B related skills. So for example, B2B marketing. If they have a job title of head of marketing and a member skill of B2B marketing, chances of them being my ICP are very high. I could even layer in different ones. So for example, demand generation. Or let's say SaaS, like software, right? All of these skills, if they have these titles and these skills, is going to be very relevant to the type of person and the persona that I'm going after. So very important to note is to keep your eye on this audience size. Now, something else that's very helpful to really make sure you're getting in front of the right audience is if you click show segments, you can break down what this audience makeup is based on the function, the seniority, the industries, the interests, the company size. So for example, in this case, 22% of my audience is between 11 and 50. 16% is 10,000 plus. So if you wanted to go after specific market segments like emerging, mid-market, or enterprise, you can narrow your audience further based on company size. So what I want to look at here is function. And I want to make sure that I'm only targeting people within the marketing function. So you can see 18% of my audience falls into biz dev, 9% sales. So I don't want to target anyone in sales. So this is where we're going to move over to our exclusions. And I'm going to exclude people based on these functions. So I'm going to go here to audience attributes, experience, and you're going to see we can't. So LinkedIn has limitations based on combinations. So if I'm targeting job titles, I cannot exclude based on functions. So a great way to get around this limitation of when you're targeting by job titles and you want to exclude people that fall into these different functions is to use member skills. So I'm going to exclude people that have member skills of sales, business development, and consulting from my targeting. So this is like a workaround essentially so that I can get away and get, not in front of those people. Now you can see my audience size just tanked down to 7,600 from the, the 100,000 plus that I was at. So I'm going to remove consulting, as a lot of these marketers have consulting as a skill. And I'm just going to leave the exclusion to sales and business development. And now you can see my audience size drop down to 9,600, which is really, really specific and almost probably too specific. So what I want to do here is I want to make a decision. Do I continue with job titles and skills and understand that I'm going to have a really, really small audience, but it's going to be a very high quality audience? Or do I go ahead and add in more job titles, which is what I will do? Or do I go ahead and switch this over to something a little bit more broad, such as like job functions and seniorities? So the downside of using job titles is it's so specific. And the fact that I'm layering in skills makes it even more specific. So a remedy here is to leverage something like job function and seniority. So that way I can get in front of people that reflect my ICP, that are those decision makers, but not just doing it based on a specific title, which is very hard because people are changing their titles all the time. So in my case, I'm actually going to pivot here for the sake of example of this video, and I'm going to switch this to job functions. So I want to go after people that are in the marketing department and they have these member skills. But if I wanted to be a little bit more specific, I could also layer in seniority. So I could say seniorities of, you know, senior, manager, director, VP, CXO, owner, partner, etc. Now, important to note, you see how my audience size just jumped up to 440,000? That's because it has or. Always make sure you switch this to and, so that way it's all these different combinations together. So and these seniorities. So I'm not actually happy with this. This is a pretty tight audience, but it's very high quality. So I'm going to go ahead and run with this, and I'm actually going to change my naming convention now to reflect these changes. So I did job function, I did skills, and seniority. So this is a very easy way for me to understand. This tutorial is targeting people that have job function, skills, and seniority. You can get even more specific than this and list out those functions in the campaign name. I know people that do that. But again, I like my campaign names to be versatile, so that's why I have it like this, but do whatever works for you. So now that we have our targeting dialed in, it's pretty on point, we can go ahead and move into our ad format. So because I selected the video views objective, I only have a video ad here as an option. Now, another trap to avoid is enabling the LinkedIn Audience Network. This is going to make it so that your ads are not showing on LinkedIn and they're also showing on LinkedIn's affiliated websites. So I'm going to deselect this because I only want to show ads to people in the LinkedIn platform. Next up is budget and schedule. So here we can select our daily budget. So in my case, I want to spend $50 a day, and we can set a schedule. So if I want this to, you know, start and end. So in my case, I want this video promotion to only go for until the 18th. So I'm going to select that as my end date. Optimization goal. So you can do max delivery, which is automated bidding, or target cost, where you set a specific condition. In my case, because it's video views, I don't mind max delivery. It usually works well for me. Where I recommend that you do manual bidding versus automated bidding is for those conversion objectives, such as lead gen or web conversions, because LinkedIn will usually have you pay more with automated bidding, and you can get cost breaks by setting a manual bid. So if I actually click target cost, like a well-known hack in the LinkedIn ads world is if you actually put like a very low amount. So for example, if I put 0.01, LinkedIn will tell you what your floor bid must be. So in this case, the floor bid, the minimum I must bid is, you know, 0.04. So you can start 20% higher than this and gradually raise your bids over time, and then find the balance between you're getting enough reach, you're getting enough visibility, but you're also not paying premium costs. That has a slower ramp time, a slower scale time than if you use automated bidding, but it's 100% up to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and select automated bidding for my objective here. And then last but not least is you wanna select your conversions. So remember we created our conversions here. This is where it's gonna tie in. So I'm gonna select my conversion action of newsletter sign up. So that way, if somebody signs up for my newsletter that watched the video, it'll show up as an actual conversion here. Now, this is not my primary goal with this campaign and this objective, as I'm just trying to get people to watch the video. But if anybody does sign up for my newsletter that consumed this video, it would show up as a click-through or a view-through conversion. Now, that's it. We have all of our different campaign settings set up. One final note that I will say is in terms of additional exclusions here, you know, make sure you're excluding people. If you're doing conversion campaigns, you're excluding people that did what you want them to do. So you're excluding, if it's a lead gen campaign, you're excluding lead gen submissions. If it's a, you know, another good practice is you're excluding any closed won opportunities. You're excluding any closed loss opportunities if you're trying to reach net new. You're excluding your company name. So for example, if I go here to audience attributes, company, company names, search your company name and make sure your employees are not seeing your ads. You can also exclude your competitors. So really dialing in your audience and your combinations and keeping in mind your audience size and the breakdown of that audience is really going to make sure that you're getting in front of the right people. So now that I have all this set up, I'm going to go ahead and click next, save. And then now we're going to go ahead and click create new ad. Now, important to note, if you want to be testing, you should always be testing in any channel. You should have multiple variations of ads, whether that's different, different copy or different creative. But a trap that a lot of people fall into is they'll create different variations of ads, but they don't have LinkedIn rotate their ads evenly. So what you end up happening is you have one ad that has $1,000 to spend and all the other ads get no spend. So what you want to do is you want to select this gear icon and you want to switch it from optimize for performance to rotate your ads evenly. And this will ensure that every ad within your campaign gets a fighting chance to perform. And then from there, you can pause the ads that are not performing based on your conditions. Now let's go ahead and create our ad. I'm going to click create new ad. And then here we're going to give this ad a name. A simple convention I like to follow is the actual offer itself, and then T1 and then V1. So T1 being copy variation 1, so text 1, and then V1 being video 1. So if we have multiple videos, video 1, video 2, video 3. If it was a carousel ad, I would put C. If it was an image ad, I would put I. This is just a simple convention I like to follow. In terms of the introductory text, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in. Just simple benefit-driven copy calling out my ICP, B2B marketers, and then what they can expect from this video. And then we're going to upload the video file here. If it was images, you'd upload the creative file for your images or carousels, whatever media type you chose. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here and upload my video. Once you upload your creative, you're going to see on the right-hand side a preview option to see your creative in either the desktop or mobile newsfeed. So you can see both devices and understand more or less how is your ad going to look, which is very helpful, especially when it comes to your copy. I really like try to make it where, ideally on LinkedIn, you want to have short benefit driven copy where people do not have to click to see more and they can kind of see everything here. But that could be something to test. You can test short form copy versus long form copy and see what the data tells you. Now, once you have your creative uploaded, we just have to drop in a headline and a destination URL. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the headline here that I wrote out already. And I'm going to drop in the destination URL. You can use emojis in your headline, to make it a little bit more compelling. All different things worth testing. And we can see our headline here. And then we just have to finalize our call to action button. So in my case, I'm just going to go with learn more, but you can choose the one that's most relevant for you. And we are set. So now I'm going to go ahead and click create. And we have our video here. Now, if I actually click on these three dots, and once the ad is done processing, we can preview it and see it in the LinkedIn newsfeed and get a better understanding of what it looks like. Another pro tip you can do here is you can actually, once your ad is processed and approved, you can preview it and then like the video yourself from your business page and already start to kick off the social engagement on that ad. So that's it. Once we have our ad created, go ahead and just duplicate variations of that ad. So for example, if we're going to test different copy here, I would switch this over to text 2. You can name it whatever you want. And then I can do a different version of introductory text here. So maybe instead of this, it's leading with a question, do you struggle with LinkedIn ads, right? Or are you trying to get started with LinkedIn ads, etc. Whatever is relevant. And we can do different variations of copy or different variations of headlines. In terms of what I recommend that you start with is ideally you test different variations of creative first and then copy. But if creative is a challenge for you, then you can start with copy and then creative or vice versa. So I recommend you at least have 3 ads testing per campaign and making sure again that you're rotating your ads evenly so you can allow each variation to essentially battle it out and see which one performs best for you. And then once we're done here and we've created our different variations of ads, just go ahead and click next. And it's just going to show you everything that you've done. So just a quick recap, we have an audience size of 33,000. We ended up going with job function, skills, and seniorities over titles and skills because our reach was a little bit too specific for this campaign. We're targeting people in the US. These are the seniorities. These are the skills, our function. We're excluding people with these sales-oriented skills. We're using an ad. We disabled the audience network. We're going to run this $50 a day over this time frame. And then once complete, we'll just click launch campaign. And that's it. We're set. Any other campaigns we want to create, once you have that base campaign created, that initial campaign, so in this case, we have this campaign of job function, skills, and seniority. Really easy thing to do is just duplicate the campaign, and then it'll copy over everything we just did. So for example, I can copy this name here, and let's say for this campaign, instead of job function, skills, and seniority, we want to do a different audience. Let's say we want to do member groups. So we'll call this groups, and let's say groups and job function. We can click next. We can copy over the same creative. Very important when you're duplicating campaigns that are using the same creative, you just select the same creative and you can verify that they all have the same creative ID. And then this way that campaign shares the post engagement. So that way all of your ads are the same one, and none of that social engagement goes away, which is great for building credibility and social proof on your ad. So from here, you can see all of our audience criteria was carried over, and we can go ahead and just make some quick edits. So for example, if this one we want to do member groups and job function, I can get rid of the skills and then just, add in groups for an example, or whatever changes that we want to make. Also, another thing to note as well is when you do have an audience that you like and you want to use it again and again across different campaigns, the downside of duplicating campaigns is it's going to duplicate the objective and the ad type. But let's say I wanted to use the same audience build, but for a conversation ad campaign, I can actually go ahead and click save audience here, and it'll save my audience build. So when I go to create a new campaign from scratch, I can just select that audience that I saved, and it'll pre-populate all of the information for me.
Hope this video was valuable. Be sure to check out these 2 videos here. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for future uploads. Until the next video, take care.